Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast. I'm your host, Cyril Gerald Quinn. Hope everybody out there had a great weekend, a busy football weekend, to say the least. Episode 1028, Notre Dame versus everybody. We're gonna get right into that. But before we get right into what transpired with the college football playoff selection, we have a couple some housekeeping here in regards to the podcast. This is our third to last show, my third to last show of 2025. I'll do a show next week, the 15th and the 22nd, and that will be it for 2025. And so, including this show, two more shows after this, again, the 15th and the 22nd. So I just want to keep you update on that. But let's get right into it. The college football playoff is all set. You have 12 extremely happy teams and one pissed off team. We'll get right into it with Notre Dame. Notre Dame was left out. Miami, Alabama, and Miami in. It seems like Alabama was comfortably in. To be honest with you, like it seems like it was like it really came down to Miami and Notre Dame. The committee uses the tiebreaker from the September 1st matchup in which Miami took out Notre Dame by 3 points in Miami, and that was the difference. Now, the committee could have made this a lot less complicated had they not made, we said we stated this repeatedly on this podcast. Could have made this a lot less complicated had they not ranked Miami 8 spots below Notre Dame when the first rankings came out November 4th, or had they had Notre Dame never ranked ahead of Alabama. Notre Dame should have never been ranked ahead of Alabama in the bowl. Never. Notre Dame, of course, responded just as you thought that they might. Obviously, feeling like the committee was being inconsistent. Remember, they were ranked at least in the top nine for for every ranking up until this point, up until the last one. They ended the season with a 10-game winning streak, playing great football. But here's what I'll say, and I think the committee got it right as far as putting Miami in. You have to reward the head-to-head. And the bottom line is, listen, Notre Dame had too many things going against them. You play, number one, not being in a conference, that definitely had an impact. Two, a soft schedule. Well, and I'll go through that in a second. Three, your best win can't be you against USC. I'm sorry. That can't be your best win. They beat two ranked opponents, USC. So they take out USC and they beat Pittsburgh. Like that's not. I'm just sorry. That just that for a team that has many resources as Notre Dame has. Notre Dame has a shitload of NIL money. You have one of the top coaches in the sport in Marcus Freeman, who, without question in my mind, will be an NFL coach someday. You have your own television network. You have a just you had coming in right as of right now. Last year, Notre Dame's recruiting class is ranked 12th. This year, their recruiting class is fourth. So there's really no excuse for Notre Dame not to be playing better people. Let me give you Notre Dame's schedule. Some of the people that they played and that they beat. Purdue finished 2-10. Arkansas they played finished 2-10. Nice win versus Boise State, but this is not a vintage Boise State team, as we all know. Boston College 2-10, Syracuse 3-9, and Stanford 4-8. When you're playing those cupcakes like that, yeah, you should dominate, and you probably only should lose one game considering that schedule. To be perfectly honest with you, so it's easy to say you're playing some of the best football when you're playing those teams. Again, Notre Dame. I don't want to hear Notre Dame in regards to. It's one thing to complain about being out of the playoffs. I'm not even going crazy over them sitting out the bowl game. What I don't want to hear from Notre Dame is the ideal that the ACC can't promote a team, the one team that they know has the best chance to get to the playoffs, or one of the best chances, or the best team, or the best team in their conference, which is Miami. Despite the record, despite the fact that Miami was not in a conference championship game, which is a whole nother story because they should have been in that conference championship with this just ridiculous tiebreaker. But yes, the ACC is going to promote Miami. Notre Dame apparently was annoyed that the ACC seemingly bent over backwards to promote a team that's in their conference. Notre Dame is not a part of the conference. Their football program is not a part of the conference. Notre Dame has made that choice. I get it. I get it. You don't want to share none of that money. You want all the television money to yourself. Your brand, you have your own brand, one of the biggest brands in the sport. But what Notre Dame should have learned last night or yesterday afternoon, they're not bigger than the sport. They're not running the sport. The SEC and Big Ten run college football. You said out of the 12 teams that made it last night, yesterday, eight of them came from the SEC and the Big Ten. Eight of them. That's not coincidence. Those are the two best conferences in the sport. Those are the two most powerful conferences in the sport. And it's not even close. The SEC and the Big Ten tell ESPN to jump. The ESPN says how high. Those two conferences dictate this sport. Period. Notre Dame does not. And I think this was really the final straw to let Notre Dame know, hey, we understand the history. We understand what you mean, what type of brand you are. We understand what type of pool you have as far as the all the television money and what have you. You don't run this sport, and we can have a situation where, hey, you don't got to be a part of the playoff. Let me tell you something right now. The college football playoff does not need Notre Dame. We have enough brands in that playoff, enough blue bloods between Ohio State, Alabama, the likes of Georgia. Those are blue bloods. They don't need Notre Dame in the playoff. Would they like to have Notre Dame in the playoff? Sure. Would it be good? Is it better for college football to have Notre Dame in the playoff? Yeah, absolutely. When Notre Dame's good to great, the sport is better. I'm not denying that for a second. Do they need Notre Dame? No, they don't need Notre Dame. We can use you, but we don't need you. And I think and Notre Dame found that out the hard way yesterday. But again, I was not as just taken back as many people were. Even people that were non Notre Dame fans um, complaining about the committee. Listen, the committee. Look, here's what I'm gonna say. And I don't. By the way, I don't want more teams. We don't need 14, 16, 24 teams. I'm fine with 12. I'm actually fine with 12. There might have been a point last year where I thought there should have been more teams. Where I thought, again, I think they're gonna expand. I think eventually, maybe not this year, but by the latest 2027, that they're gonna push, that they're gonna have 16 teams. Even before this situation happened, would transpire with Notre Dame. But a couple of things that could have been that I just mentioned. I just talked about the rankings and how horrible, terrible of a job what the committee did with some of these rankings from week to week. Um, you also in these overpopulated conferences like the Big Ten, like the SEC, like the ACC. How about a division? You can't split these conferences into divisions. What are we doing? Like that was simplified. You want to have the two best teams from each conference play. You can't. It was embarrassing to have Duke and Virginia. You should have had Virginia. It should have been Virginia and Miami. Like you can't have the best. You can't you can't have a situation where you don't have the two best teams from your respective conferences. Like you can't have that situation. You know, if it had been Duke, if it had been Virginia and Miami, Notre Dame gets in, assuming that Miami wins that game. So you like take the best. You know, a lot of things happen that hurt Notre Dame, um, that caused this. But again, if you're Notre Dame, you play better people. Like it's not you're not like a mid. You are not a a Group 5 school. You're not a mid major. You are Notre Dame. You have the resources to go out there and play. You know, Texas went out there and played Ohio State. We give Texas a lot of credit for that. So you gotta play more than Miami. Okay, you play at Miami. Go play another game. Go play another top team outside. Go play another top team outside. Non-conference or outside the ACC schools you play. I mean Notre Dame's play. I mean Notre Dame's schedule is abysmal. That Notre Dame schedule is an embarrassment considering the level that they're at right now. Notre Dame is a legit top 10 program in college football right now. Maybe even top 7 to 8. Like they should be playing a tougher schedule. That's all there is to it. Especially not being in a conference. Instead of beating the shit out of, the Syracuse's, the Navies, those schools like that. So go play better people. That'd be my message to Notre Dame. You don't even have to join the conference. Just play better people. That's it. And again, the committee was very consistent about head to head and what head to head meant. And they have been consistent since this format was introduced with the 14 playoff. If you remember in 2023, Alabama beat Georgia, won the SEC championship, and had the head to head over Georgia. Georgia was out. It was Georgia out, Alabama in. Now again, I didn't agree with that. I thought Georgia should have been in because I thought Georgia was the best team in the country. To be honest with you, and I thought got penalized for losing. Like remember, Georgia was 13-1 that year. Their only loss was a 3-point loss to Alabama. They should have been in that 14 play. They had even a bigger gripe than Florida State, to be perfectly honest with you. But I understood the premise. Um, when we won the conference championship, we beat this team. We're choosing this team because of the head to head. Okay, fine. And the committee has been again the committee with their rankings. Oklahoma was over Alabama. Now Alabama had a more impressive year than excuse me, Alabama. Yes, Alabama had a more impressive year in terms of strength of schedule and in terms of the amount of quality wins versus Oklahoma. But Oklahoma beat them. That's it. Like head to head still matters. That still matters. So I'm not crying. I don't feel bad for Notre Dame, to be honest with you. Again, as a college football fan, I thought this season up until this point has been a great season. The storylines, this is despite the fact that the Heisman is dead. The Heisman this year has been is just horrible this year. Like there's no buzz for this Heisman Trophy, and it'll be on Saturday. There's no buzz for this award because it's a bad Heisman year. But every week, for the most part, starting from week one, was must see television with the college football. And I'm telling you right now, these ratings are going to be great. People are going to be at home on their, taking on Christmas break. The ratings for this college football playoff will be tremendous. Now again, you're going to get a couple blowouts. Got two Group of 5 teams in the mix. Um, there's a possibility for some ass whoopings in the first round. That's okay. That's fine. If you get a couple ass whoopings in the first round, you're good. We're good. You still have 3 rounds between the quarter semis and championship game. You'll still have 3 rounds of should have 3 rounds of high level football. We don't need every team in this thing. We don't. I didn't need. We didn't need to have Texas. You don't need to have Vanderbilt. It'd have been nice with Notre Dame, but it's not an absolute necessary to have Notre Dame. I really believe that I'm fine with 12 teams. I have no problem whatsoever with just 12 teams. It's supposed to mean something to be able to make the playoffs. It really is. It's really supposed to mean something. Again, it had to get past. They had to go past four. Four was not enough. 12 to me is the right number. But Notre Dame has nothing to cry about from a standpoint of you can only do so much crying. You really can only do so much crying if you're Notre Dame, man. Like I said, if you were in a conference, if you weren't as greedy as Notre Dame is, you're probably playing in the playoffs right now. But the big thing out of this is they should realize that they are not bigger than the sport, and they haven't been bigger than the sport in a long time now. It's been going on close to a generation now. Like you gotta really go back to the Lou Holtz days, late '80s, maybe early '90s, early '90s. They haven't been bigger in the sport in a long, long time. To be perfectly honest with you, the SEC has absolutely lapped them. Now the Big Ten, SEC combined, those two entities are clearly bigger than the sport and are clearly the two most important entities in all of college football. We shift to the NFL game of the week. Fun game to watch, Packers and Bears. These two teams, obviously, we talk about a rivalry, talk about probably from a historic, from a championship standpoint, from a history, maybe not recent history, but from a league history standpoint, this has been the preeminent rivalry in the NFL. This was the first time that both these teams came in 5 games or more over 500 this late in the season. Well, the first time since 2001. Um, and Packers were able to hold on, winning 28-21 at home. Much more important game to me for the Packers than it was the Bears. I was thoroughly impressed with the Bears and their performance on the road in a tough environment against a good team. Um, Again, I haven't believed in the Bears all year long, but again, I still don't think the Bears can get to a Super Bowl. But I am more respectful of the Bears after that performance. They were physical. They didn't back down from the Packers. There were a couple times in that game where I think could have gone left. 14-3, 21-11. But they kept scraping, hung in there, ended up tying the game at 21. Caleb Williams, of course, throws an interception late. Throws the interception late, under through the receiver. Nixon makes a great play on the ball, and Green Bay was able to hang on for the victory. Um, I like the direction Green Bay is going in right now offensively. They've really taken more chance. The offensive line, the pass protection has been better. They've gotten back to being they've looked more physical offensively with the running game, and they have gotten a little bit more creative in terms of the play calling. So they was on LaFleur's ass during the month of November for most of the month from October into mid November. This stretch they've had over the last 3 or 4 weeks probably has been, I think, one of the best stretches of offensive football. To be perfectly honest with you, we know what the defense is. We know that Jordan Love has a ton of talent. Um, we know how we like this. This is a Super Bowl team from a talent standpoint. We know that, but they for the majority of the year either play down to the competition at times, walk would go through the motions, would have some inexplicable play calling offensively. The last 2 to 3 weeks, Green Bay is starting to convince me that they could be a possible. I'm not quite there yet, but possibly they can get to the Super Bowl. Now, again, I'm not all in on Green Bay. I'm not putting all my chips in on the Packers, but I feel much better about them as we stand here on December 8th than I did, say, you know, 3 weeks ago or a month ago. Certainly a month ago, I was down on them with some of their just inexplicable performances. Um, where the offense looked dead as a doorknob, where they just some of the play again, the play calling being spotty, but they look like a much more complete and a much more together football team now than they did a few weeks ago. Because the talent has never been a question. They've always been from top to bottom. They've always been one of the more talented teams with all the weapons that they have in this in the NFL. And by the way, and listen, the defensive player of the year is probably over. Miles Garrett had a sack yesterday. He's got 20 on the season with about I think 4 games to play. Um, so that's probably over, or 3 games to play. I believe, yeah, 3 games to play. That's probably over. But Michael Parsons definitely deserves consideration in terms of defensive player of the year. He should be probably runner up to Miles Garrett in terms of defensive player of the year. He's been spectacular, and it's not just with the sacks, the pressures, the chasing quarterbacks down who are scrambling, just the overall impact that he has on a defense on the just as a game record. He's actually I frankly think he's had his best year, to be perfectly honest with you. I really do, as far as impact. Not just going by sacks. Sacks can be misleading at times. Just going based off overall impact. I think Parsons probably has had the best year he's had of his of his career. Go around the league. I think we can officially put the fork in Kansas City um, at 6-7. They fall to Houston last night, 20-10. Um, this was more about Houston. With their again, Houston defense continues to dominate. Kansas City just made a ton of mistakes. Mahomes with the interceptions. Andy Reid's going for it twice late in the game on fourth down made zero sense. Kelsey, couple huge drops. So this has been a complete breakdown from an organization, from a franchise that has ran the NFL for the past 7 years. And again, at some point, they was gonna take a small step back at a certain point. And this is a year where losing close games. Now they have not had a litany of injuries. Like there are certain teams that just completely have been just swamped with injuries. You see what's happening in Indianapolis right now. We see what's happening with Washington. But Kansas City has been relatively healthy. It's just a case of again, I think three things. I look at three things, three major reasons. I think the AFC is better, especially in the division. I mean, Denver, the Chargers are those teams are just much better than what they have been during this great run by Kansas City. Um, and I think that the AFC as a whole is probably better. Jacksonville is better. Buffalo's still very good, not great, but still very good. Um, so I think now you have Houston on. Houston's coming. So I just think that they've slipped a little bit. Other teams have gotten better, and again, at a certain point, you're not going to make it to the AFC to the conference championship. Making it to the conference championship 7 years in a row, I don't think we'll ever see that again. To be perfectly honest with you, I know I probably said that after the Patriots did it 8 straight years. I'm confident to say that I don't think a team will ever make it to in either conference will make it to 7 straight conference championship games. And right now, again, I don't think Kansas City's making the playoffs. Sometimes it's just not your year, and it seems to be going that way for them all across the board. And this is without even catastrophic injuries. So that's when it's really not your year, when you're still not, when you're at this point and you haven't even been really bitten by the injury bug. Now again, I still can't think Kansas City will go out there and I don't think they'll lay down, but I just don't see, I just don't see them making the playoffs and being a factor even if by some miracle they would make the playoffs. I just don't see it. They would be, to me, one and done. To be perfectly honest with you. Buffalo wins a wild game against Cincinnati, 39-34. This is where Buffalo's at right now. They have to win these crazy games that where Josh Allen has to be Superman. Josh Allen yesterday, I believe, had 4 touchdowns. Allen on the season is on pace to score 50 touchdowns. He's on pace to get 30, 20. Like he's going. He has 12 rushing touchdowns. I can't see a situation like 8 touchdowns with how many more games they have left. 4 games left. I think this is extremely doable for him to have 8 touchdowns, 8 more rushing touchdowns. I mean, it would be a. I think that's definitely on the table. But yesterday you see Josh Allen, 4 touchdowns. 22. Goes 22 or 28, 251. No turnovers, no turnovers, no interceptions, and ran the ball 9 carries for 78 yards, including a 40-yard touchdown run. Buffalo again. This is how Buffalo's going to have to win. Um, Buffalo ran the ball for 183 yards rushing. Now again, Cincinnati. This is a game where if you're Cincinnati, you absolutely were in total control of. You have to be kicking yourself up until a couple of late turnovers by Joe Burrow. You thought Cincinnati was going to win this game, uh, but Burrow had 2 late interceptions, and that was that. So Buffalo wins a wild game. They listen. I look. You will take your chances with Josh Allen in the playoffs. He's still to me the best player in the sport. Um, you're not going to have Kansas City, so he doesn't have to get through that gauntlet, or that doesn't have to get through that demon that has been their nemesis, and has been a thorn in their sides during the Josh Allen era in Buffalo. So you know, I've been saying this for a couple of years, but this will be as good a chance as Buffalo has to get to the Super Bowl with Kansas City seemingly being out of the mix here. And as long as you have that guy in the center, they have a veteran team. They played in a bunch of playoff games. Then they absolutely will have a chance to get to the Super Bowl. Now, again, I'm not in love with this team by any stretch of imagination. Teams that have defensive that can't stop the run always scare you going into the playoffs. Those teams always scare you that can't stop the run because there's a lack of physicality from that type of team. But I will say this: when you have the best player in the sport under center and no Patrick Mahomes to deal with, you should be feeling great about your chances in the playoffs. As far as Pittsburgh, Baltimore, give Pittsburgh a lot of credit. Um, Even though they were outgained by Baltimore, Pittsburgh, for the most part, controlled that game. Listen, look, after the Dez Bryant situation with the completing the process of a catch, I I I don't know what a catch is anymore in the NFL. The likely catch yesterday seemed to me like it was a touchdown. It was called a touchdown. It was called a touchdown on the field. It gets reversed. I didn't even know when it happened, first happened. I didn't even know why they were reviewing it. Like I'm like, what am I missing here? Now, again, I understand. I totally understand. Hey, you gotta make a football move and have possession of the ball, make a football move. This never was, like I said before, the Dez Bryant situation if you the Green against Green Bay in that playoff that 2016 in the 2016 season. No one never we never talked about this. What a catch was. It wasn't for the most part. I mean, that play, the Burr Emanuel. There have been 2 signature plays in the past say 25 years. You had the Burton Manual, which changed the rule because that should have been a catch where it allowed for a receiver for the ball to actually touch the ground as long as he maintained possession. That remember if you remember that in the NFC Championship with the Rams and Tampa Bay, that should have been a catch, and Tampa Bay might have won that game. And you had the Dez Bryant play. After that, we started paying attention to guys, completing the process of the catch at a whole nother level. Before that, I did not remember at all that you had to have like basically a 5-step process for a catch to be considered a catch. So ever since the Dez Bryant game with Green Bay Dallas in the playoffs, I just don't know I really don't know at times what a catch is. It looked like the likely catch looked like a catch. In my opinion, I don't remember. I have no rooting interest whatsoever in that game. I have no like. I'm not a Bill, not a Ravens or Steelers fan, so I could care less who would have won that game. But I don't know what a catch is. I mean, I really don't know what a catch is. I would have thought that it would be hard to reverse that call when it's on the field. I really do. So, of course, Baltimore is up in arms about it as well. They should, as they absolutely have the right to be. They actually ran the ball relatively well, and really 217 yards rushing on 40 carries. So they got the balance. They hit 40 carries versus 35 passes. So you got the right amount of balance. Aaron Rodgers played probably one of his better games of the season, to be honest with you, because Pittsburgh could not run the ball at all. They hit a couple he hit on a couple of deep plays. DK Metcalf has a big game um, with 148 yards rushing. Excuse me, receiving. Give Pittsburgh credit. Give Pittsburgh a lot of credit to go in there. Now they are not in total control. Not gonna say that, but again, I think this division is gonna come down to the gonna come down to the next game that these two teams play. Um, Probably more than likely. I know Baltimore. Baltimore has a tricky schedule. So Baltimore has a brutal. Baltimore's next three games. Now at Cincinnati, we know Cincinnati is just gonna be a pain in the ass for anybody to deal with that offense. At Cincinnati, home to the Patriots, at Green Bay, at Pittsburgh. That's a brutal end to the season. It's a brutal end to the season, to say the least. So it's gonna be very difficult for Baltimore to make the playoffs. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, Dolphins at Detroit, home to Cleveland. And of course, they end with a home game with Baltimore. So Pittsburgh, I know Miami's playing better, so that's not a walk in the park. Miami's won 3 straight. But as far as schedule is concerned, Baltimore by far, to me, easily have a more difficult terrain than the Pittsburgh Steelers. But Pittsburgh, listen, certain at times when Pittsburgh looks decent, there are also times where they look like a bottom half team in the league. So who you never know which Steeler team is going to show up at times. You just never know with Pittsburgh. Best of the 21st century. This will be the last movie we do of our Best of the 21st Century series. Catch Me If You Can, 2002. This movie comes out. This movie was directed by Steven Spielberg. A just wonderful cast. Uh, Leonardo DiCaprio, Tom Hanks, Christopher Walken. Again, just a great cast. Yeah, Martin Sheen, a young Amy Adams, Jennifer Garner was in this as well. Of course, based on a book written by Frank Abigail Jr., who was a world class con artist, faked checks all over the world, wrote bad checks and counterfeit checks all over the world, claimed to be a airline pilot, a lawyer, a doctor. So this guy had lived a interesting life to say the least. Um, Now again, of course, when you hear stories like this, there are always going to be some disputes with it. when you hear stories like this. But by all accounts, a lot of this stuff seems to be like it could have happened. As far as the movie goes, this comes out in 2002. It on a budget of only 52 million, it makes 352 million dollars. Um, great. This was a great year for movies. You had Spider-Man, 25th Hour, Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, Minority Report, Road to Perdition, Signs, Gangs of New York, Unfaithful, just to name a few. Like there are, 2002 was a landmark year for movies when you look back at it. Probably one of the best years for movies in the 21st century. In the last 25 years, if we're being perfectly honest about it. Hanks and so thing that stood out about this story, obviously the performances, the Christopher Walken performance was spectacular. But you have this guy, this kid. What I thought about when I've seen this movie, I don't know, countless times. I bought it on DVD, went to see it at the movie theater. It released Christmas. It released Christmas Day, 2002. But the thing, when watching this movie a couple of days ago, the thing that I did not think about out of all the times that I've seen this movie is it must be like to be great at something that is illegal must be it has to torture your soul. Like that has to be I couldn't imagine being born to do something, but it turned out that this is something that could and end up could put you in jail, which it did. This guy was a world class liar. Like he was the charisma, the he teaches a French class for a week. Just being able to lie and kind his way into things that seem to be unimaginable. That's a talent. That absolutely is a talent. And I never thought about that. Uh, Out of all the times that I did watch this movie, how difficult that could be knowing that you're born for something, born to do something, but not being at an age. Now, again, to give you some background. So, based off the movie, uh, so his dad had some bad parents. Like, let's be honest. Listen, you like Christopher Walken's. We'll talk more about Christopher Walken's performance later on, but we liked Christopher Walken's character. Seemed like that his dad was a nice guy, but was horrible with money. I mean, his mom was absolutely horrible with money. Was kind of a dreamer. Was a dreamer. Really, you know, Frank Jr. got some of those criminal traits from his dad. His dad, I don't think, again, I don't think his dad was wanted him to be a criminal or had, that wasn't, his dad wasn't a criminal, but some of the stuff, a lot of the stuff that he got, the charm, the ability to lie, he got it from his dad. And then his mother was, let's be honest, his mother absolutely was depicted in the movie was a piece of shit. She cheats on the dad with another fellow member or president of the Rotary Club, Jack Barnes, who was played by James Brolin. James Brolin. I mean, like, so bad parents, horrible parents to begin with, and you had even despite the fact that this kid, young man, was a liar, a con artist. I kind of felt bad for him in a sense. You really kind of felt bad for him because you don't like. There are people who are thieves, right? And we see these in movies that are pure thieves. That some of them are cunning, a lot of them are cunning. Some of them are just pure evil. Some of them really want to do the wrong things for the wrong reasons. This dude really was just being he was being a kid. Like he loved chasing the women. He really was kind of like a guy who just didn't want to do the thing. He didn't do it to hurt people. He did it because he was great at it. And he did it because it gave him pleasure. Like you're up here writing bad checks, okay? You're flying across the world. You're meeting beautiful women left and right. You're wearing nice suits. You're able to buy. And think about some of the stuff that he did. Hey, I want to take care of. I want to take care of my dad. I want to buy you a car. Remember, so there's a scene where he buys his dad, bought his dad I believe a Mercedes or a fancy car. I forgot it's a Cadillac. And at this point, the IRS is on his dad's ass. Like the IRS is not playing around. His dad is went bankrupt, and his dad basically says, "Hey, look, man, look, I caught the train here. I'm gonna catch a train. I'm gonna catch a train to go home. Like I can't be seen with the IRS. I can't be seen by the IRS with a brand new Cadillac." So this was a guy, a character, Frank Jr. That was kind of easy to root for. He was easy to root for, despite him doing bad things and despite him affecting as many lives as he affected with these bad checks. Um, I can make a case, right? So this was a big year for the big three of this movie. The big three of this movie: Spielberg, DiCaprio, Hanks. Uh, 2002. So Spielberg releases in this same year releases this movie releases this, and earlier in the year Minority Report. I love my Minority Report. If you haven't seen it, basically gives a futuristic take on policing. Way ahead of his time. Tom Cruise was in it. Just for not just love the movie. I went to see that in the movie theater as well. It came out like in the summer of 2002. So big year for Spielberg from that standpoint. A lot of people, there are people that don't like my Minority Report, which I don't understand it. I really don't understand how anybody could not like that movie, but everybody has their opinion. You have DiCaprio. This comes out along with Gangs of New York. Now, Gangs of New York, I was not like they both at one. Gangs of New York was the number one movie. So DiCaprio in 2002 had two number one movies. I don't love Gangs of New York. I love Daniel Day Lewis's performance. That actually for me saved the movie. It was an okay movie at best, kind of long, a little long, on the long, a little bit too long for me to be honest with you. But it was a hit movie. It made a ton of money, and it had some critical success. Daniel Day Lewis, I believe, won an Oscar for Best Actor. Um, so those three had big 2002s. Hanks comes out with this. And earlier in the year, Road to Perdition, very underrated Tom Hanks movie, very excellent gangster movie, period piece. Paul Newman wins, I believe, got nominated for the Oscar. Got nominated for like Oscar with that. It was a good performance. It wasn't. I think that was one of those old man. Hey, Paul, you want to give you a performance before you kick the bucket. One of those deals, but still, very good movie. Excellent storytelling. So those big three in this movie had a big 2002. Um, Looking at Leonardo DiCaprio's career up until this point, right? He's really this. He's entering. This is 2002. He was in a mini slump, to be honest with you, because he comes out. Um, he's coming off The Beach. Came out 2000. Critically, maybe the worst movie he's ever made. And then Gangs of New York. So he's coming off he's coming off a stretch where after this is following Titanic, right? We all know what Titanic did, one of the biggest movies of all time, and what have you. So after Titanic, Man the Iron Mask, The Beach, and then comes Gangs of New York. So I mean, for Leonardo DiCaprio, I could make a case that was like a mini slump. I really could make that case. That was a mini slump. Then after this, he goes back on another streak, ridiculous streak. The Aviator, The Departed, Blood Diamond, Body of Lies, Revolutionary World, Shutter Island, Inception, J. Edgar. I wasn't feeling J. Edgar like that. Django Unchained, The Great Gatsby, Wolf of Wall Street. So really, he really hasn't looked back since that. To be honest, be perfectly honest with you, but so you can make a case that he came into this movie in a mini slump, in a little mini slump for him. When you look at Tom Hanks, I didn't realize this, but I can strongly make the case that this was the last great Tom Hanks movie, to be perfectly honest with you. And I'll tell you why. So, Hanks, so Hanks had a stretch. Again, Hanks owned the '90s. We don't even have to relitigate what he did in the '90s. He owned the decade of the '90s. You want to go back and look at what Hanks did in the '90s. It's one of the best run of films any actor has had in a decade, in any decade. It literally is what he did in the '90s. But comes out, so going in, so Castaway in 2000, we know what, that turned out to be what that was. Road to Perdition 2002. He comes out with this in 2002 as well. After this, it starts getting going downhill. Lady Killers '04, The Terminal '04, um, The Da Vinci Code, Charlie Wilson's War, Angels and Demons, Larry Crown, Cloud Atlas, Captain Phillips. Yeah, like it got real. It got bad. Now Sully was fine. I was fine with Sully. Um, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. He gets the Oscar nomination. Eh, So that I can make again. I can really make a case that this movie was his last great movie. And you think about it, this is one of the very few movies that Tom Hanks had been a co-star in too. This might like leading up to this movie. Looking at it now, um, this might be the only movie that he's been a co-star in since what? And I don't count That Thing You Do. He was a cameo in that one. Yeah, this was the only movie during his career where he was a co-star when he became an A-lister. This might have been like yeah, I mean it's probably since Dragnet. When you think about it, you gotta go back to like Dragnet, Nothing in Common, or maybe Dragnet. That probably was the only two movies that he's been a co-star in throughout the course of his career. Like certain actors get to levels where they're not co-stars anymore. Like Denzel probably has two movies, um, The Pelican Brief and Philadelphia, and he's starring opposite Julia Roberts and Tom Hanks. So yeah, I'm convinced now that this was the last great movie and perform the last great movie that Tom Hanks was in 2002. Now again, that's not a knock on Tom Hanks when you consider the run he had from like '84 to 2000. Like that's be like the run he's had like he owned the '90s and even in the '80s. Like you had some like the '80s. You're talking about Big and some of the couple things he did. Now the Money Pit was horrible. It's funny, but it's horrible. Nothing in Common with Jackie Gleason owned the '90s, so it's not a knock to say that this was Tom Hanks's last great movie. These characters, Hanks and DiCaprio, perfectly complemented each other in this movie. It's kind of like Hanks was fine with being Scottie Pippen. Hank. This was DiCaprio's movie um, from start to finish, and I thought Hanks. You know it was an understated performance by Hanks. Um, I don't think he needed the accent. He went a little overboard with the New York accent, but again, I thought he was a perfect compliment for DiCaprio in this particular movie. But the MVP of the movie was Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken. I look at this Christopher Walken performance. I can make a case. This is a top three. excuse me. This is a top three Christopher Walken performance. I loved the characters of his dad. He was the classic case of um, first of all, he owned Christopher Walken owned every scene in this movie. He along with Tom Hanks were the only two people that could see through the bullshit, the con artists that Leonard that Frank Abagnale Jr. played. Those are the only two guys that could see. Those are the only two meaningful relationships that Frank Abagnale Jr. had in the movie. And I said he was a bad dad. Bad dad. He was a bad dad, but was not a bad dad. He was a bad dad with good intentions. But he was so authentic in this movie as a human being. I just thought that he just owned all these scenes that he was in. He wasn't in that many scenes. Um, wasn't in that many scenes, and you felt bad for him. You felt bad for him. You felt bad for him with the wife leaving him. He's going, he's had to downgrade with the house, the money situation. I was like felt terrible for this guy, and he brought that out of his performance. Like I said, this is a top three. He got nominated for an Oscar, and rightfully so. It absolutely to me is a top three Christopher Walken performance. Now obviously the best Christopher Walken performance is the Deer Hunter. I think the Deer Hunter, that stands by itself. But he really played the role of the dad who wants the best for his son, loves his son, but did not go about it in the greatest of ways. Tried to be a good husband, um, but again, didn't go about it. Again, bad with money, but it doesn't mean to be bad with money. But he was just bad with money. He was just bad. Some people are just bad with money. That doesn't make you a bad person if you're bad with money. So you really felt bad for this character. Not felt bad, but this character really drummed up emotion out of you. The scene, one of the more powerful scenes in the movie, and I think I might have shed a tear. Maybe I shed a tear when Tom Hanks tells Leonardo DiCaprio's character that his father died. That one got me. I was like, Leonardo was devastated. As a watcher of the movie, I was devastated because I was like, damn, man, this dude, like that one. I'm not gonna lie, that one hit. That hit hard. I rarely get emotional in movies, but that one, I kind of like that kind of got a little lump in my throat. I'm not even gonna lie. Pause. But yeah, I love this character. Just sees through all the bullshit. He saw through all his bullshit, and plus, and one of like he rode for his son. Like there's one of the scenes where you see where Tom Hanks is talking, Hang Randy, Tom Hanks's character is talking to him, and he's like, "Look, man, y'all know what my son do, but do you really believe I'm gonna give up my son? Like this shit's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna not gonna give up my son. And it's no chance I'm gonna give up my son. I know he's a criminal. I get it." But this is what it is. This is who he is. This is what he is. Um, yeah. After this movie, so walking after this movie, this might be the last Pool Hall Junkies. This might be the last great one for walking as well. Man on Fire. He was Man on Fire was very good. Man on Fire was good, but I would say that this absolutely is a top three, top five Christopher Walken performance. Overall, again, this movie could have been 20 minutes shorter. 2 hours and 20 minutes is a long time. Um, You can believe what you want to believe as far as some of the stuff that Abigail Jr. claimed to do. Maybe you don't know how much of it is true. Um, no, certainly no way to completely prove it or to even disprove it from that matter. But what this movie did bring out was, you know, some coming of age type stuff, some dreamer type and some dreamer. So you have some dreamer type stuff going on with this kid, family issues, and somebody, a talented person. When talent goes wrong, when talent goes bad, what do you do with that talent? When you're talented at something that could get you locked up, possibly as a young kid or even as a young adult. So this movie, a lot of great things about this movie. Strongly recommend it if you have never seen it. I definitely recommend it. You have to see this. This is kind of a must see movie, and it is the last movie on our best of the 21st century series. A couple things before I let you go. Got a chance to see, of course, uh, the Sean Puffy Combs documentary, The Reckoning. Um, it was everything that I hoped it would be, and then some. As far as quality, this was well shot. The story was well told. Some of the footage that they got, a lot of the footage that they got, I'm still trying to figure out how they got that footage, got their hands on that footage. Um, it One of the criticisms by people who want to cape for Diddy is the fact that it was a hit piece, and 50 Cent can't stand Diddy. They got some shit going on back from way back in the day. It's even some shit that some people even are not even privy to knowing. They got some deep shit these are two people, like especially when 50 Cent's in, that doesn't fuck with Diddy at all. We know this. But I guess I will say this: if I didn't know their history, you wouldn't be able to say that this was a personal. This was like something that just wasn't well shot and information was all over the place. No, no, no. This documentary was well put together. It was well constructed, and it actually filled in some gaps, some stuff, and it made more sense as you went along throughout the course of the documentary. It's 4 episodes, and some of the pieces connected. A lot of the pieces connected, and there was nothing about it that I said that I thought in my mind that wasn't that I thought that he couldn't have done this. You talk about somebody, talk about narcissism. You talk about somebody who is completely tone deaf, who is completely oblivious, and who completely kept digging their own grave in a sense. That's Diddy. I mean, you're telling me you're documenting. The reason why we saw the footage, was able to even see the footage, is it was because Diddy was basically making a self documentary and shooting footage of him having conversations with his lawyer, or him just saying a bunch of just wild shit leading up to the trial, leading when all this shit is going on with Cassidy, um, with with everything that was going on. When a lot of this shit came out in like 2023, I said to a lot of people, or to people who I was in conversation with, the best thing for him to do was to lay low and just go away. I know you said that 2023 or even last year. Like that was the best thing. That little did I know that he was making, like I said, making his own self documentary or taking or shooting his own self as a shooting him his own self along with his sons with his own footage, which is insane. Is absolutely insane. He did everything but incriminate himself. To be honest with you, but that's who did he. I mean, that's who he is. The narcissism, the idea that I'm bigger than life. The idea that I'm above the law. The idea that I can't get caught. I will never get caught. And by the way, he still to only get 50 months was, you know, was almost a minor miracle that he only got 50 months. You can absolutely believe there's enough stuff, enough evidence, there's enough speculation to absolutely believe that he was capable of having Tupac shot. Period. Like, there's nothing that I would not believe. Not just based off this, but based off all the stuff, all the evidence that you've read, the documents that you've read, court documents that you've read. But this documentary put a bow on all of that to me. And there you can't tell me nothing. You can't tell me there's not a innocent bone in Sean Puffy Combs' body to me. Like I mean, he's a piece of shit. Let's call it the way it is. He's a piece of shit and a horrible human being. And again, I don't understand how anybody can still ride for this dude. Um, there's a form of Hollywood, especially Black Hollywood, that defends his own celebrities. This whole idea that society's trying to take him down as a black man, you can miss me with that bullshit. This is a guy who has done nothing but horrible things for the better part of 30 plus years. Horrible things. And he's somewhat didn't even get his full comeuppance because he's still not gonna do a lot of jail time. Like I said, he's gonna do 50 months, probably less than that with good behavior. I absolutely think that this was a necessary documentary, to be perfectly honest with you. This was an absolute necessary documentary. Like I said, some of the most revealing stuff came from him and the words that were coming out of his mouth and how he manipulates and uses people and how he, you know, understands, similar to like Donald Trump about how powerful a media narrative, controlling the media is, and how important that is as far as putting out your own narrative or controlling the narrative, a narrative. So like this is stuff that came from him. Like I said, he basically he did a lot of damage to himself on this documentary. Like I said, by shooting basically his own footage of himself that was completely unnecessary, stuff that we should not have been able to see because he shouldn't have shot it. And again, I'm glad this story came out. I'm glad it was told and it was constructed the way it was constructed. Say what you want about 50 Cent. 50 Cent understands how to make this type of stuff, documentaries. He's made, he did stuff on hip hop homicides a couple years ago with Van Lathan. We saw what he's done. Forget about the power stuff. I'm just talking about with BMF and some of the stuff, that blowing money fast. 50 Cent knows what he's doing when it comes to this type of storytelling. He does. He understands street shit, period. And, he's a natural storyteller. You listen to him rap for the last 20 years when he first came out. He is a gifted storyteller. It's undeniable. Petty as all petty can be. We understand that and does too much trolling, but he's a great storyteller. And all this stuff connected, the jealousy of Tupac, the jealousy of Biggie, the idea that he wanted to be bad boy and wanted to be the singular force of like when you thought about bad boy, you thought about Diddy. He did not want to be any of the artists to be bigger than him. He wanted to be the artist. He wanted to be everything. Like Suge Knight was right. All on the videos, all in the stage, all on the stage, all in the videos. That was Sean Puffy Combs to a T. That is still Sean Puffy Combs to a T. All about him, 24/7. That's him. That's who he is. So certainly encourage watching it. It can be difficult at times with some of the stuff that you saw that these women, talked about going through with how some of the treatment, how he mistreated just countless people. The one of the toughest parts was what happened in that party that he threw, and those people got trampled on and crushed, and 9 people died, and nothing like that. That was rough to watch. That was a rough one. That was that because that definitely should not have happened. And he was behind that in a sense. Not that he intended for people to die, but the fact that it could have been prevented. One last thing on an NBA note before I let you go. Of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is injured right now with the calf strain, he caught a major break, and so did the Bucks. With him, that was a non-contact injury. He'll be out for at least 4 weeks, if not longer. But even more important than that was the for the first time you get the inkling that the idea that he wants out of Milwaukee, um, that he's fed up with the current state of the franchise or the direction the franchise is going. Milwaukee was in a tailspin before his injury. They are, think like 10-15 right now, or 11-16. They right now they're barely on the play-in. They're barely a play-in team. They're not going. Listen, Milwaukee's not going anywhere, even with Giannis. Even if Giannis were healthy, um, I don't still. I want to blame the situation on Giannis and the Bucks for being delusional, thinking that this team was going to do anything if everything broke right. Milwaukee's 10-15, and like I said, they're in 10th place in terms of the play-in. But that's neither here nor there. They are not. They're not going. They're not doing anything, even if they were in the play-in. But if you're Giannis, if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, to me, you should have came up with a amicable parting of ways this summer. There was no way that this team was going to contend with Giannis, even with the signing of Miles Turner. Miles Turner is what on a championship team, what a fifth best player at best, fourth or fifth, number four, number five at best. You saw Indiana had no problem letting him go, especially once they knew that once Halliburton tore his Achilles. So it should have been understood. Hey, it's been a great 11 years. Helped us win a championship. You want to win more championships. It's not probably going to happen here. We're not contenders. Like what? So you're coming off you played great in the Euro championships. So we know you're still a top three player in the world. Let's go. I mean, let's make this happen right now. You could still get a ton of capital. A ton. You could have still got a ton for Giannis in the summertime. Now he's coming off another injury. He's had multiple injuries this year. He's had two injuries this year. He's about to turn 31, or just turned 31 a couple of days ago, I believe. That value is not quite the same as it would have been in the summertime. Milwaukee still can get a lot for him, but not as much because the teams that the Houston's of the world, the San Antonio's of the world, they don't have to move on you to get Giannis. They don't have to. So his value, in a sense, has kind of went down a little. Has went down in my book. Not for like you're still probably going to get 90 cents on the dollar for him. But in the summertime, you could have got. I feel like you could have got a grandfather offer for Giannis in the summertime if you're Milwaukee. So I think it's just a miscalculation by both Giannis and Milwaukee. And if you're Giannis, I wouldn't worry about what people think about me if I'm asking out Milwaukee. Like, who gives? I frankly wouldn't give a shit because I brought you a championship and I've been here for 11 years. Like I've done everything I can possibly do. This is not me bailing out on the franchise and leaving you high and dry. I've done everything I can do. That's it. This is it. This is it. Like this, you know, if you want to feel some type of way, feel some type of way. I wouldn't care. Like I'm trying to win at this stage of my career. Unless you just love living in Milwaukee, which okay, I've never been in Milwaukee, but I don't reckon that Milwaukee is L.A. or Miami. So to me, both parties made a mistake by waiting even this long for to make a move on for Giannis and for it to go in this direction. It should have been decided in the summertime, to be perfectly honest with you. The East is not that bad to where the Bucks had a chance to compete for these. It wasn't gonna get that bad. As bad as it is, there's no way the Bucks are gonna be contenders coming out the Eastern Conference, despite the fact that Giannis is the best player in the conference by far. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast. I will see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your week.